the program. This is still Good Morning Kenya. If you are just joining us, you're right in time for our second and last conversation this Monday morning. On our Family Check segment this morning, we try to focus on money and relationships. It's called the M word. The M word, as they say. That's our focus this morning. How to handle finances in relationships and possibly also in marriages. My guest this morning is Duncan Juma, who is a life coach and relationships expert. Na hajakuja peke yake. Amesema hii lazima kuwe na mtu wake. Together with his wife, who is Kendi Juma, and they'll be talking to us about this elephant in the room, as they call it, money specifically. But before we get to the money aspect, let's start from where you guys began, just talking about marriages, relationships. I mean, I'm a firm believer of marriages and relationships, and perhaps this is what pushed you to begin in this kind of conversations, and perhaps from on an online platform. Maybe I can start with you, Kendi.
We started having conversations. Okay, we've been married for the last almost 8 years now. And when COVID started, we realized that many people were at home and they didn't know how to unpack some of the things. I give an example. I'm an introvert. COVID worked for me totally, just working
for you,
from home.
There was no difference.
That was, I enjoyed. Yeah, I really enjoyed working from home. And he's an extrovert. And just discussing issues about life, how we're handling COVID, how I learned he would really struggle staying in the house. And you know, for me, I was really enjoying myself. We started having conversations with couples on Facebook and just hearing people saying, you know, when we talk about me being an introvert and him being an extrovert, we're able to help a number of marriages. And through that, we're able to reach out to a number of people. Yeah.
Duncan, you have a story. Much as Kendi anasema, you know, I'm an introvert, you're an extrovert, so just think the house was cool and easy, and I thought let's begin this conversation on Facebook or even on any other online platform about marriage and relationships. But for you, actually, it was not as easy being in the house, and even perhaps what pushed you to say, by the way, let's start having these conversations.
That's true. I'm the kind of person who regrets paying rent in Nairobi because I'm rarely in the house. You know, you're just funding the future of your landlord without, you know. So during COVID, I'm an outdoors person. I do trainings, team buildings. I get a lot of energy just supporting projects, people. So when the country was shut down and we were told you can't even move to the next county, that was extremely painful. Like listening to the president, my tears were just like, now, how does this work, you know? So I think week one, I'm at home still adjusting. You know, that moment you tell your wife, hey, can you bring me a cup of tea? And she's like, as who, normally no one is in the house during the day to tell me these kind of things. And then she's telling me I'm working. I'm like, but I can see you here. Like, you know, what did I sign up for?
And you can also go take it for yourself.
Exactly.
That's not true, but you help her, the word helper comes in at this point, you know? And so staying at home was quite a bit of a problem. So there are days I would just go out, roam in the car. Of course, promise her that I'll not open the door for rest. Corona jumps into the car, you know. But after some time, I started talking to people. We started saying, hey, can we process what we are going through? Can we share with the world? I'm an extreme extrovert. I have a lot of energy. I enjoy talking to people. Here I'm stuck with a person who likes to be quiet, who wants to have me time. I want to turn the table upside down because I have frustrations. I need to go out there. So because of that, then we started saying, hey, how are we processing this? But as we started talking about it, we realized many other people started identifying with us. We realized there are men who had gained their space by being this guy who floats around money. Now the work is no longer happening. You lost your job. You're now at home with the people you normally say you fend for. Your children are now no longer calling you uncle. They're calling you dad. You're in that space, and it's frustrating when you don't have money. A lot of men were looking very useful to be sent by their wives because now you're at home. And so that space was.
And even your kid can say, Daddy, nilete ile.
Yes, you know.
And you're not used to that.
Because, you know, maybe it is your wife who is now working, and you look like your money will come in future after Corona. There's a sense in which that was really frustrating for some of us. So I still think I'm yet to fully heal. So I'm overcompensating.
Also, you took advantage of the time and said, let's have this conversation.
Let's have this conversation.
About marriage.
I think the quality of any relationship is when you're able to say, hey, if you're going through anything, especially as a couple, and you're talking about it, you're I think 50+1% on the right route. The problem usually is when you know something is happening, everyone knows, but we are silent about them. So when we start unpacking this thing, we actually start enjoying just being different. Because I realize she actually is working from home, and I can be the one fixing dishes as I, or doing lunch.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, with the hope that it will not be burnt offering, so that she actually enjoys. And you discover, talents you had that. But also you also realize a lot of times couples don't stay together. You're at work, 12 hours a day, or it's 8 hours on the road, to and fro, maybe another 4. You sleep averagely maybe for 7 hours. So the time for you bonding. It is possible to live with your wife or spouse for very many years and not know what is actually going on their world, unless you have now time to unpack. And that's why you've had even scenarios where people say, when children left, we realized we are strangers.
Exactly.
You were never building that relationship. So talking about it, unpacking it was helpful.
So you can say this was like a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
The way, depending on how you want to look at it.
Exactly. She enjoyed us.
No, I think it was, even for us, we were able to spend, after the first few maybe weeks or months, we're able to bond. Like, I never had him, like I had him during the COVID period. Juma was always, there are days he'd land and he leaves, he lands and he leaves. I was with him. I got to discover that he loves ice cream. I never knew that about him.
After 8 years.
No.
After 8 years.
My other name is
And mind you, you dated before the 8 years.
Yes, we did. 2 years. We didn't know.
My other name is Simiu. So if I can eat things that are away from Ugali, it looks like I'm prospering. Like, life is now happening for me.
Life is happening for you. This is
Yeah.
a good initiative, because when you look at relationships holistically and long-term relationships, marriages as a whole, and also when you look at our generation, there's that notion of, I don't think marriages actually work. I really don't believe in relationships. So beginning this kind of talks, it sort of like changes that mindset and belief system of people. And you mentioned something, Juma, that even before you go to the finances aspect of it, let's begin from one of the major root causes, communication. Why is it a factor? What's so difficult about just saying, I don't like how you talk to me this way, or I don't feel good when you do this? What's so big about communication that when you look at the list of things that result to divorces or even relationships breaking, it's communication and then finances? What's it about communication?
Communication. I'm the kind of person, when you read my CV, it says I'm excellent in communication. But when I got married, I realized I'm not very good at communication, in the sense that, for example, she would come home and tell me I've had a bad day. And as a man, God has blessed me with wisdom to see that I can fix the things that are making her have a bad day.
That's not what she wants at that point in time.
And that's not what she wants.
That's a
She wants
solution.
me to understand she's had a bad day. I can fix it 15 years later, Maybe she says, I went to the market and saw this person with yellow and the dress was looking awkward and it annoyed her. The things that annoy women. Just random things that the world has bigger problems.
That you can't even make sense of it.
Yes. So
and it's a big problem.
Yeah, it is.
All she wants is for me to understand she's had a bad day. Of course, in my head, I have an A4 script of solutions to how to fix this thing permanently. And so in that sense, communication has a lot to do with the meeting of meanings, that what she is talking about and what you are picking are one and the same thing. Needless to mention that women don't speak directly. I don't know which school you guys
Someone
went
said
to.
really go round in circles, and men are logic and direct.
Like if I say, are you okay? And you say, okay, that apparently doesn't mean you're okay. Like, it's a whole system of this. And being on the same page, and by and large, the lack of better communication there stems from very many other
Duncan,
things.
just pause a bit as you try to fix your mic. Let me come to you, Kendi, and maybe we can just pick it up from that capacity of communication, because I want us to go systematically until we just try to unpack these issues. Maybe we can try and solve a thing or two here when it comes to relationships and even marriages as a whole. Let's talk a bit about that communication, because the way I was even giving that example, what is so difficult about me just telling my husband, I don't like how you talk to me this way. I don't like when you come home late. Why does it just have to be an issue that communication is a big factor?
The way I look at it, communication is bigger. It's just not telling him. Yeah. You see, there are times maybe I could tell him, Juma, I don't like when you come home late. Yeah. But it depends. Maybe he's been hustling somewhere. Because at times maybe I'm getting so upset he's come home late. But when he explains where he's come from or what had happened, you end up feeling like I'm the bad person, you know. But I've also learned through in marriage, learn when to talk, also as a woman. Let's say like when he comes home, he's had a long day, maybe it's business, he's not gotten any business, and here I am firing shots, you know, he's gotten home. I've not found out how was your day, what happened today, you know, I'm already upset. You sort of make him shut down. Yeah. I've learned at times know when to handle some issues. Maybe we might talk today, and if we talk about an issue today, we'll end up killing each other because we're both upset. Yeah. Why don't we unpack this issue later on? But we agreed, even as a couple, even if we are mad at each other, we'll still go to bed together. You know, hakuna ile mtu anaenda kulala kwa kiti huyu analala huko kwingine.
Let's talk about the practicability of that.
No, by the way, you if you make it something that you guys live by, you can do it. Even if I'm upset, yes, it's possible. I mean, the days I go upset, I'm annoyed, I want to cry about an issue, but I realize maybe this is not the right time, but we are still married, whether we want it or not. But let's learn how to address issues. The issues are like, hii tukiongea kwa nyumba, we're going to kill each other. Let's go for a walk outside and talk about it. You know, but also, my thing is, when it comes to communication, timing. When do you address issues? You know, don't address when you're both upset about an issue. Yeah, it could be, let's think about this issue today, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And I've also learned at times it's learning to say sorry, or even him saying sorry when I'm not necessarily on the wrong. And you see, whenever maybe you're even having an argument with your spouse, you're right in your world, and this person is also right in their world. You know, but also sitting down and looking at where are you coming from? What does this mean to you? You know, when you address issues that way, then you're sort of able to handle the issues that you guys are going through. That's how I look at it. But communication is big, from family, learning how to address your in-laws, you know, learning who, say if there's an issue, Juma should not address my family. I should be the one who's addressing my family when there are issues. Same thing with him, because you know, when he addresses my family, they'll be like, hey, huyu kijana huyu husband wako, unaona vile anatuingililia. Learning how to talk about these things. And I also learned, for communication, it does not start in marriage. It starts before you two get married. Talk about these issues, you know. Even like what he's talking about during COVID, if he doesn't have a job or I don't have a job, how do we handle some of these issues, you know? Start addressing these issues. But you find most times we start talking about these issues when you're already there. You know, go for classes that will help you guys start talking about these issues before you find yourself there. You'll not be 100%, but at least I believe you have conversation starters before you get into the marriage situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's always about timing, and the question of knowing that you might not be right all the time, learning to say sorry.
Yes.
As these some of the things that you have learned over time.
Yes.
Especially being in this kind of setup.
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
With time.
Makes a lot of sense. So you're coming back to you, Duncan. I mean, just talking about what you explained to us, especially about women and how women think, and perhaps even what would bring the whole aspect of proper communication in a marriage or even in a long-term relationship.
Most times when I'm talking to my wife, one of the reasons I picked her was I thought she still has a very
what do you mean that she had?
Very good brain. At least my judgment that they say the quality of your children really is pegged on the DNA of you. Perhaps men, you just determine the sex.
And that's
it. Maybe. So you need to get a woman who, you know. But most times when she's talking to me, she tells me this is how I feel. I've seldom heard her say this is what I'm thinking, because then communication at that level, then it is really processed through her heart, and very few times
through her brain.
And this is the reality of it. When you get married to someone, when you're taking your husband to be vetted, what do you tell your mom? You tell he's a homemaker, he looks responsible, he has a good job, he can fund my future, he looks like he can, you know. But really, how you chose him was pegged on how he was making you feel when you know those communications. Where kata simu, where kata nikikuongelesha nasikia kakitu. That's where really you made your decision on. So when you understand that really heart issues are complex, that's why you have a chance to hurt each other so badly. If you even just miss out on communication. And because of that, then as men, one of the things I've learned is to hear things and I can't say anything about, and just then the unfortunate bit is she then asks you, are you saying you can't say anything? I'm like, I'm no longer able to know when I should
say or not
give
say.
my quality. In fact, there are times I've told her she least benefits from my quality brain because she doesn't listen to me most times. But that's how, on a perception bit to it. The thing is then communication has to be that you must be available for her to actually tell you poor Hawal. I notice ladies have to be in a zone where they trust you to then tell you whatever piece. Think of it this way. My wife can have an issue. She has a sister that they are very close. They can go meet and cry about an issue together. Like, cry, then after that they are feeling like, maybe let's say she's accusing me, and now they are crying together. They're like, that guy is not that guy. Then they cry. After that, they breathe in and out, and they have sorted out the issue.
And they are good.
And they are good.
And they are good. And that's amazing. For us men, if I have an issue with her, and I know men have noticed I have an issue, I can go to my friend and say, hey, I have an issue with my wife, but I'm dealing. What I've done there is I've told him, yes, it is true, I have an issue.
But you haven't even said
I've given you no permission to talk about it. You have no access to that issue. I'm dealing. But you see, now I have to be available to her to also cry with me or with her, so that it's not always the sister, or else it's actually the sister who is marrying. And so to be for her to feel understood is a bigger need for her, for her to even trust me now with the information she wants to tell me. So being available, the way, let me put it this way, every couple, for you to succeed, you must have some level of moshene with your wife. Where we just talk about things as they are in the world.
That is legit. I can even see one boy on the other side of saying, it is too rude.
You understand? But you see, for men, we have been wired to be, be a man. Why you talk about your neighbors? That neighbor who has funny legs, talk about him.
And talk about it with your wife.
After that, she
or with your spouse.
After that, she will tell you secrets that nothing else would have, so communication is key. And also part of it, as she mentioned, coming to a place where as a man, the way the Bible says the two shall become one, what they never tell you is which one of the two you will become.
But you shall by default.
But mostly we become the woman, like for peace to prevail, the choice of to be right or to be happy. What happens is you must reach a place where you actually be the smaller guy and say, I let you down. Even in that apologizing, it's actually a show of greater leadership.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, Kendi, do you feel like sometimes that aspect of not understanding how the different genders behave is also one of the biggest contributor? Because just from what Duncan is saying, that sometimes understanding that this is how women actually communicate. That I'd want you, whether we've sorted this issue or not, but because we've cried together, it actually helps have solved. And thinking from the man's perspective that I do not need to actually offer solutions to you. So do you feel like sometimes not understanding how different genders communicate is also a big factor?
Oh yes, it is. I mean, our needs are different. They need to be loved. We need to be heard at times, and just not getting that from a spouse can be a big issue. It can result to a lot of conflict. Small things like even our personalities, how I prefer to spend my time and how he prefers to spend his time can be a big issue as far as communication is concerned if we don't learn how to voice it. Like initially I thought Juma was not okay how he when we got married, just talking too much, how like when he's stressed he prefers hanging out with people, and I prefer like when I've had a long day I just want to go home, sit down, clean my house, do my everything, and it used to be an issue of of conflict, and until we learned how to talk. In fact, I think when he became a life coach and he did the personality test and all, and when I did the test, I was like, I'm very okay, and I think he's okay. And I learned how to support him. Like when he's had a long day, I'll go hang out with him, even if it's not my thing. Go out, meet people, he listen to music, and that calms him down, you know. But initially, I remember, in fact, there's a time when we're newly married, and the type of person I am, by 8, 9, it's time for people to go home and sleep. And him is like, hey, at around 9, 10, there are movies to go and watch. And we went to watch a movie. I think we're getting home at around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. You know, but I was like, I didn't die because of doing that. But I learned when you learn how to die to yourself, as far as some of the things are concerned, then you realize some of these things they're not really a big thing, you know, and also not, part of also communication is learning. At times I don't have to be right. Let me allow him to have things his way, but also see how jafiniliwa. You know, there's a way it can always be. It's Kendi's things are being done my way or his way, but we also learn to express ourselves and say, you know, when you do this, this is how I feel. You know, also understand why I'm saying things in a certain way. Why am I doing things in a certain way? It helps a lot. Yeah, but also the way we see things differently as men and women really affects us as far as marriage is concerned. Yes.
Kendi has mentioned greatly on that sacrifice bit, and even just giving a bit of examples here and there. Talk to us a bit about that.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
I'll quote the good book. They say, love your wife as Christ loved the church. I think as a man, the quality of a man really is pegged on the sacrifices you're able to make. A lot of us, and even the movies have showed us, that when the stereo guy is winning, normally he's either given a wife or given a woman at the end of the day. If we see there's a woman in the picture, we settle silently. So there's a journey in which we walk through that then allows us to know that we need to sacrifice time with your family, for example. Most of us, even in Nairobi or in Kenya, we spend more time with our workmates than with our spouses. The people we say we are fending for, we don't. So unless you're deliberate to say, today I'll not hang out with the boys, let me just listen to my children, let me listen to my wife, sacrifice, even just, what happens normally is the lady has a dream, and most times silently, she thinks you will fund that dream. So
and she does not communicate about
most times
it.
They don't.
But she imagines you need to be knowing about
yes.
it.
That's why greater conflict is actually in failed expectation or unmet expectation. And most of these expectations are silent. If you ask the men, they would say, si ungesema tu, like what was so hard of you just voicing out what you wanted? Then the woman is like, you should have told me.
You should have known.
I'll give you an example. Sometimes I'm in the house and I'm really feeling maybe tired. Then my wife is busy cleaning everything, you know, cleaning. There's a way ladies work at home, cleaning everything, even the thing that should not be cleaned. So in her world, she assumed that I will see her
and reach out.
So as she's busy cleaning shoe number A, me I'm cleaning shoe number B. I'm like, if you needed help, just voice out. But the thing is, learning to study that wife and then making the requisite sacrifice, that means something for her. Let her be fixing the dishes as she will do the cooking as she's doing something else. What that means is then you are a team. Here is the thing. If something that your spouse does makes you feel in a certain way, that feeling needs to be communicated. If it irks you, it might be that you just misunderstood those signals, but if it irks you or it makes you feel in a certain, communicate those things so that then they get to know what they need. There's something called dying to yourself. She mentioned I'm a random person, I meet a lot of people, but I spend time with her. She'll tell you, I create a lot of time. Why? Because there are times I'll hear there's Luo night somewhere and it is calling me by all names. But then I look within, I'm like, what at the expense of what? So that sacrifice essence has to be there, even materially. There are times, you know, and this is the thing, your spouse grow, even as a man, if you grow with her or she'll pull you down. There's a sense in which if she starts to feel insecure, you will not go far unless you unpack that. And so reaching places where you say, hey, of course there's a level of prudence that, let me put it this way. If I went and bought land in some godforsaken place, chances are she may not agree with me. Maybe I'm seeing 50 years from now. But the thing is, how I communicate, that would make the difference. Or else, I'll have bought that land, but I'm lacking peace in my present. My future is secure, but my present is hell.
not.
Yeah.
So really, that is important. But also, you know, there are things, there are needs your spouse has that sometimes you may not. You know the way people say, I'm having a headache, and the other guy or the other party wants something. Sometimes you can die to yourself and say, for the sake of this person,
Dutiful.
I am on duty, unless you're fasting and praying, saying these goodies are available, and it sometimes requires just sacrifice.
Yeah.
In that sense. Yeah.
All right, I wouldn't want us to finish talking about communication without having to touch a bit on, because you know, communication is actually in two aspects. We have verbal and then non-verbal. So you can really emphasize a lot on voice it, talk about it. But what about those things we can't say, and it's only our non-verbal expressions that can actually express? How do you go about
That's why
that?
I think a lot of women will go to hell.
Why do you say that? Because you do a lot of non-verbal communication. But you see, we have two aspects of communication.
Am I going to worry about geopolitics? Who is the next president of Kenya? Or will I be thinking,
expressions.
I'm reading in
Read between the
it doesn't
lines.
help with this.
Read between the
with
lines.
This, mascara that you guys have. You can't tell fully
What this person means when
you
they're
can have
acting.
that eyebrow that process that shows she's angry the whole day. So you don't know whether she's and then she says she was happy. Like, how did I was supposed to know you're happy?
But that's why we have non-verbal communication. then.
I think let's just be. I think this is the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe on a serious note, I think we need to talk about these things before you even make major steps. Understand, study each other.
This is the step of dating, courting, thereabouts.
Understand each other in context. If your girl loves hanging out, go also hang around where she's hanging out. You will pick out things that those dressing up for Java coffees will not give you. If she has this girl, she says, oh, my girl is annoying. Go figure out whatever is annoying, is what you should annoy her on, and she'll be okay. Or perhaps, you know, so I think by and large, non-verbal cues, men, we fail on that because we're not very good at reading in between the lines. If you tell me you're not okay, or if you tell me you're okay, then what am I supposed to work with? You told me, it is recorded, we can play it again and again.
But haven't you heard of when someone tells you something or when someone speaks, learn to pick what they are not saying, because
from my
sometimes
face.
that's also communication.
Yeah.
What do you think, before you continue, what do you think, Kendi? What do you think about that? Because I mean, that's also an aspect of communication. That when someone says something, and actually I think even when you go to journalism schools, they will tell you, when someone says something, there's more that they're not saying to what they are actually saying.
Yeah, I think it's important, and learning how to to know this non-verbal cues. I mean, if I tell him, are you okay? And when he asks me, are you okay? And he looks at my face, definitely there's a problem.
So if I'm saying I'm okay or not, just be looking at the face.
Yes.
To tell you whether I'm okay.
Ama chai imeletwa aje, chakula. Then when you ask for your food, chakula iko wapi, inaonyeshwa na mdomo, that's non-verbal. There's a problem. There's a problem. But learning to understand them, and I think what he said, learning to date yourself. But I also think even us guys, we need to learn how to also express ourselves. I think men don't know how to handle some of these things or deal with them. Like as he's saying, I live with my sister, should know when she would see me doing something, she knew as a chick maybe something is wrong. But also learning to teach him some of these things. Ukiona niko hivi, anyway, it's not a good day. If you've walked in and I'm not talking, maybe I've had a bad day, but maybe give me a few minutes, I'll get out of this situation. But also learning to teach them our non-verbal cues so they also get to understand. Because I don't think they really.
I really like that part. Here's the thing. Most of us men, our emotions were not fully developed. Ulikuwa ukilia ukiangambua ekuwa mwanaume ngangari, So all our emotions most times are summarized into anger. Because we are frustrated. So you see an outburst, usually then it's an indicator of something this guy has either been processing. But so what happens is sometimes you want to dilute that by drinking something stronger than tea, and because our emotions. So when we come to a lifelong lesson of reading in between, we're like, why can't you summarize this class? Just tell me I'll put a red dot on my forehead. That means
to show you I'm not good.
Today life is, Yeah, so I think, but I like what she's saying.
Yeah.
Teaching us.
Yeah.
One day my wife told me this. I want you to understand me, not because of anything, but because you're going to be a father to daughters. And that got my attention. Because then if they don't feel understood, there's always someone else. There's a mother-in-law involved. There's a sister somewhere. There's a cousin. You know those they say? My best cousin. Those ones are the ones taking up almost like something you can build relationship capital on, because you're missing in action. And why were you shut out? It's because you did not understand her in the first place. I think men want to feel respected. That's why you can tell your man, I love you all forever. He will not read it. He will not even understand. In fact, we don't even buy us gifts. Just to treat us with respect. Don't talk to me badly before my relatives, before my friends. Worship me in public. Enjoy in private. That's just life.
Worship me everywhere. So again, I feel like it still goes down and boils down to sacrifice. That aspect of teaching your spouse how you need to be handled, how you need to be talked to, and dying to yourself. Where self yako ni ya kusemanga niambie direct, but for her it's just be reading in between the lines.
So, she's a firstborn. So by dying to say she's a dictator of all, in a good way.
But I think so. It's a firstborn kind of thing.
And we are both
firstborns.
So you should also have my
firstborns, two firstborns.
All right, so let's talk a bit about the finances. And maybe let's start from the point of when is the right time? I mean, you just met this person, you are like perhaps 6 months down, you're trying to think of a long-term relationship, perhaps even get into marriage. At what point is it right to start talking about finances, debt, investment, all these things surrounding finances?
You're looking at me, so I start.
I want you to start. Then now she can cool it down.
I'll build scenarios. One, as a man, just come authentically without the money aspects to it. Come with your bonga points and say, hey, you look beautiful. I think you look like you can make a great spouse. If you think that is a conversation we can start having, I'm available at this Nyama Choma.
That's how you katia sound. Is that how he did it?
No. If you do it authentically, you're likely to have more traction. But I think finances should be part and parcel of the conversation at some point. But by and large, look at each other's dreams, look at the drive, the energies, get to know each other first, then get to listen. So a lot of, right now, let me put it this way, it's possible for a girl to be in a relationship and purely because she looks good. Okay, I know I'm not saying this on TV, but for a man, there's usually something called responsibility.
Responsibility, it is. Hold it right there. Time for us to take a very quick break. When we return, we come to unpack more of this, and especially just targeting on that topic that we started on, which is actually finances and relationships. How do you go about it? All that after this break. Stay with us. Nimekuwa moto upper off air, but we are back. We are continuing this conversation on money and relationships. Before you went on break, we are talking about that bit of responsibility, and I want you to pick it up from there before I come back to you, Kendi.
Yes, a man is defined really by the level of weight they are willing to carry through life, and usually that's why work is important. Sometimes you can meet someone, especially when you're newly married. He may not have all the money, he may not have, but if he has a work ethic, he's focused, he has a dream, he's punching as per his weight, there's a chance the sun will shine. And those are good indicators, as opposed to someone who has money and you don't even have an idea how
where
that
this money came
from and all that. So a man's responsibility is then, most times in the African context, we are then saying you're taking someone from their parents, quote unquote, and now you're going to be held responsible for, which is actually vice versa. one of the things you discover as a man very early on in a marriage is any title you're given has a responsibility, and it has a monetary responsibility to it. When they say the man is the head of the family,
man is the provider.
Money is involved. Money is involved. There's no head without money. In fact,
there's no head without money.
I would urge men to know you're not the head of the family in qua ground. You are a member of your family. That works better, So, but responsibility, taking.
So you have
care.
something to do for the family.
You have to go and. The only funny bit is that your wife or your girlfriend wants you 100 times to be with them and still work and fund their dreams. That's where the balance needs to come. But responsibility is...
And they're not saying that they want you to fund their dreams, but they subconsciously want
you no longer spend time with us.
I'm working for you.
Before I got married, I had a six-pack. I was looking good.
Oh, really?
Now,
Oh, really?
I'm hairy. So I think if you see someone, especially those who have not gotten married and it's late in their marriage and they're hairy, looking ugly, those ones are baby husband material. Those are the ones you should go for. Those are the good ones. Those ones with six-pack, machos. But this is the thing: responsibility. A man punch, work hard. Deliver something. Don't over-promise. In fact, under-promise and over-deliver. Yeah. But also speak about, from a financial standpoint, speak about the expectations. For both of you, talk about it. Yeah, from a young age, girls are told you are a princess. Not true. Your father lied to you. But this is the thing. Because of that princess, there's an expectation built that this guy is actually... Then what happens is sometimes we end up having, let's say, for example, a grandiose wedding. You're telling the world life is happening for us. No, you don't have to. You can eat popcorn at your wedding and go have a great life. Just have this discussion.
Are you sure?
I agree with you.
Weddings are like girls.
Exactly.
Dream.
But why? Who are you lying to? Who are you lying to? Yeah. In fact, just call them important people and go and spoil yourself with that 30,000 shilling buffet or whatever, and just, or it, who said you can't even call it?
I don't know why it's just interesting. People that are already married, they will tell you about it in that way after they're already just
we make mistakes. You don't have to repeat it.
You went through a lot of pressure only for...
It's not even a full day. It's a few hours, just for a few hours, and it was not worth it, and you're doing it for who?
But if you can,
if you can, well and good.
Go enjoy your day.
No, I'm just saying also don't stress yourself because you want to put up a show or impress people. Take a loan, start your marriage on the wrong footing because of trying to impress people.
Thinking people will notice. They don't notice.
They don't even care.
But the moment you buy your car, you realize many other people have the similar type of car.
And they don't even care about the car.
Exactly.
It's like in weddings, people the food was not even enough. And you put a lot of money and you went and borrowed and you didn't even tell your spouse that you had to get a loan.
Imagine.
You didn't talk about it.
Imagine.
Let's talk about something I feel like it's quite important. And maybe I can start with you, Kendi, on this one. And we also had this bit of convo just off air a bit, that by the time you are marrying this person, you have given, by the time you're giving yourself even body, you've given your all.
Yeah.
So why then do people still feel the need to have secret investments, secret account? I mean, I've already given myself to you holistically. Yeah. So why am I hiding things that involve money?
I think it's, I think as we had, we're having that discussion while we were off air, I think at times we've seen some of these things happen in society. Yeah. And also I think from the word go, we never talked, we're not transparent enough as far as finances were concerned. Maybe I thought if I told Juma that I take care of my sister, I'm educating her, he will not accept me. But if we've agreed we're getting married, put all your cards on the table. This is who I am. We are both firstborns. We need to educate our siblings. So it means, as far as our finances are concerned, maybe for the first 2 to 3 years, we'll be paying school fees for our siblings. What do our finances look like?
And make sure you agree on that.
You agree on that, Or maybe before we got married, I had a loan or he had a loan, and maybe the loan was for a good reason. It could have been a bad reason, but anyway, we're already getting married. Yeah. Are we going to be paying this loan? What does that look like? I think at times, because we are not transparent enough, we end up having other things aside, And as we said, if I gave myself to Juma, what is money? We'll die one day and we'll leave that money. But let's also have candid conversations, and from the word go. Don't, I should not wait until I'm married, and that's when I'm telling Juma, you know what, I have a loan that I've been paying, or I'm in debt because of 1, 2, 3 things, or he tells me he took a loan to fund our wedding, and you end up starting your marriage on the wrong footing. Have these discussions from the moment, for me, look at it, from the moment we agree we're getting married, let's put our cards on the table. I know that's not what happens, but I think that will save you guys a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. Yeah.
Have these discussions, have these conversations. How do you start? You actually took a loan, whether it's good or bad, doesn't really matter. You are in debt, for example. You love this person, you've been dating for 3, 4 years, now you're getting married. How do you start this conversation?
Of course, what society has painted is you need to look perfect. You need to look like things are working for you. They say she's getting married to a banker. And the banker has the house loan, mortgage, it takes home maybe 300 shillings. So have these conversations. Especially, you can start it from saying, this is the world, where do you want to live? What are your dreams about? Some of them are in very interesting spaces, castles in the air.
But you see, by the time you're beginning this conversation, you might imagine, nikimwambia ataniacha.
Acha kuacha, it's a good place ya kuachwa. That's really a good place to kuachwa.
Because I want us to be so practical about this, because you can keep saying, have this conversation. How do you start? And that is always a factor.
But they just start. Let me tell you, afadhali uachwe na deni sahi kuliko
uachwe huko mbele.
Ama you're already married.
Have sung a very interesting song. There's one that says, ulitangaza madeni yangu kwamba nililipa rent na tala or something. The thing is, talk about it. It's gonna bite at some point.
Yeah. So the earlier the better.
I know someone who said yeye na bibi yake watakula mali waachie watoto madeni ili watoto wakumbuke. But the point is, have the discussion. Have the discussion. Trust you me. Many relationships fall through the hard. There's something called authenticity.
Yes.
And there's something called just being responsible. Part of it is you putting your cards on the table and say, hey, I'm the firstborn in this family. For the foreseeable future. This is the plan I have for them, but for you also, this is the plan I have for you. So that both of you see areas of, if I succeed and my family does not succeed, society equally has a way of judging. And
they'll always be biting into you.
In fact, there's a saying where they're saying now the rich are not sleeping because the poor are awake, because the poor are not sleeping because they are hungry. If the only one who has corn, proper seed maize, and you plant it, and the others don't, because of cross-pollination, they will steal your maize, but also their bad quality will come in, So the thing is, start whatever way, as difficult as it is, when you start realizing this is the person I want to spend the future with, say this is where I am, but this is also the plan I have. It might not be very practical at that time. Usually when you're in love, you're a bit stupid. So you're not thinking straight. But in your sober days, think about saying, hey, this is it. She might even leave you for a week, but then she will discover you're actually more authentic, and when the comeback will be stronger. Rather than you building castles, her thinking, then all of a sudden she realizes you are the worst debtor in town. Even the clothes you have, auctioneers are coming for it. Can you imagine that picture? What happens to your trust levels? What happens to... So it is a conversation you must have. However, this was a level of prudence involved in how you say these things. Maybe let me take a detour so that I explain.
Yes.
If I have rent issues, for example, how I tell Kendi that I have rent issues is as important as anything else. Let me illustrate. If I came to Kendi and said, now rent imechelewa, I don't know what to do, my world is collapsing and I don't know what to do. Immediately after that, I'll have two problems. One is the rent issue, and two, the impact of my words on her. My impact of my words are worse than the rent issue. One of the things I discovered is women love stability. And the interpretation of stability is not our interpretation of stability. If rent is supposed to be paid on 4th as a man, even if you have millions and you pay on 7th, your wife will interpret instability. And because of that, they start being wary and they start thinking,
and the money is there.
the money is there. Most times, you know, there's money for a project, there's, you know, you just delay it to, you know, but money is there. For them, they want, if you're giving her 2,000 shillings for shopping every 2nd of the month, as long as you do that, she thinks life is happening for you, because then that's the promise.
It's the consistency.
It's the consistency. So if you're not going to do it on the 2nd, communicating upfront and saying, hey,
Communication.
I'm going to delay a little bit, but I'm in charge. If you know rent is not even in the foreseeable future, you talked about non-verbal cues. We also have them, but you know, you can say ni kuna deal mahali jaiva lakini iko inaiva.
I think that's why it was important for us to begin with that communication aspect, because it goes back to it.
If your wife is wise, she will know you are saying if you have something, this is a good place to.
Hakuna kitu saizi, but chances are.
Mungu atanipiga tochi hapa mbele. But you can bring God into the equation. Say Mungu haachi watu wake. Unajua as I go. Here's the thing, by the way, in a man, there's a king and a fool.
Okay.
They say as a woman, you get the one you speak to.
Is it a king and a fool or a king and a kid?
A king and a fool.
Okay.
You get the one you speak to. If Kendi comes to me and says, hey, tumekaa sana bila kula nyama kwa hii nyumba, hata hiyo siku hawatakula nyama, because he's talking to the fool in me. But if she comes and says, there's something that makes me feel today I'll eat meat. I can even go and steal for her, because then she spoke to my essence. And one of the ways to encourage men, especially after the pandemic period, speak to their potential. Don't speak to their weaknesses. Men detest, they actually zone out. Men have closure with one woman. Most times it's their mother. When you get married, you shift it to your wife. But if she uses what you have in confidence against you once, it goes back to default setting, your mother. So here's the thing. Speak to your man to their potential. Tell them, I know we didn't have food today, but I know you will bring back food. What happens is, then you go out to fight for your family. But if you don't have peace at home, the person you married is the one pulling you down. You even can, you know, give up to life and just say, you know, let fate rise, let fate, you know, So
we can actually safely say, because you're really running out of time, I don't even know where the time went to, but so we can safely say that there's really no right time to actually have the conversations on money and finances. Just start and keep talking about it. Some of marriages people got married when they didn't have money. Money will change you if you didn't talk about the potential of what it can do to you. Money is power. The reason a man would want to have another woman sometimes is because you want to flex how far this money can take you. And so the essence of it is unpack scenarios even before they show up, but even as they come. Because what happens is, if your wife gets a promotion and she has more money than you, the dynamics are likely to change.
It's true.
The power dynamics, many men now who have a wife who earn more than them, you work carefully, you are more available.
Oh my God, you've just opened up a different story. You've opened up a different conversation that we do not have time for, but I believe we'll continue talking about this conversation perhaps as time goes by, because it's a very pertinent issue. And you know, just going by what you've said, that if your wife earns more than you, whether you like it or not, it has changed the dynamics. But hatuna your time saizi. But again, thank you so much, guys, for coming. This has been a very wonderful conversation. I've actually enjoyed myself, and I believe that also our viewers have learned a thing or two about relationship communications and finances as a whole. Very important issues in relationships. Sindio, my guests this morning have been Duncan and Kendi Juma, just talking to us about the most important things in relationships and marriages, finances, communication as a whole. And this is where we bring this conversation to a close this Monday morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo. On behalf of the entire team, we say thanks so much for watching. Till tomorrow, have a beautiful Monday morning.